All right. I think that we'll start and people will slowly come in as they come in. So after many, many years of preparation, we're finally here. The opening of 2020. And I will just immediately pass the mic on to the International President for some opening statements. So, Goshka?
Welcome everybody. My name is Goshka Tur, and I'm the International President of Service Civil International. I have the great privilege and pleasure to welcome you at this very important evening. Here in this room we have prominent representatives of Service Civil International from all over the world. We have people from 3 continents, many dozens of countries. We have presidents of SCA branches, members of the boards, activists. We have representatives of the hosting branch via Netherlands, and I would like especially like to welcome warmly those that have just arrived and came for this ceremony. We have members of the International Secretariat, those that make sure that our operations run smoothly throughout the year, and we have members of different teams, including the 2020 team that has been preparing the celebrations and the actions that we will be having throughout the next year. Last but not least, we have here the members of the International Executive Committee. SCI has been operating for more than 99 years now, and throughout those 99 years, we have touched lives of probably millions of people. And we know that what we do in the world is to grow seeds in individuals, seeds of passion for peace, for a world of non-violence, for a world where you discuss differences instead of starting to wage war or conflicts. And I'm so proud that 100 years later, we are still here, needed in the world, but with a very important mission and a very constructive contribution. And during this ceremony, we would like to officially launch the celebrations of 100th anniversary of our movement. I know that there are people all around the world that are watching us now on live streaming, and I would also like to say hello to our sister networks of international voluntary service organizations. We have also one prominent member of the coordinating committee of international voluntary service, the international president Ingrid Dankert, so I'm very happy that you made it here. And I hope we'll all organizations globally working for peace, justice, and working in the field of international volunteering join our efforts and hands to make our work even more efficient, more reachable across the world, more recognized. During this grand opening of the 100th anniversary of SCI, we decided to invite a few people to give some contributions, inspiration, food for thought, and we could invite here just a few speakers to take part in the official ceremony, but there will be a long evening ahead of us, and I really encourage all the people here that sometimes for decades have been with SCI to share your memories, your positions, your thoughts for the future also later on during the evening. There are many surprises here waiting for you, and I hope you will enjoy the evening. I will leave it to the Master of Ceremony, Chantal, to announce it point by point. But for the moment, I think we are ready to declare that we officially start the grand opening of 2020, so our 100th anniversary and the 100 years of SCI existence.
Thank you very much, Goshka. So the next person we invited to speak is somebody who was one of the people who were in the 2020 team. So they've been working on the anniversary for years now, put a lot of time, put a lot of effort, and came up with, I have to say, a beautiful creation and output that I hope everyone gets a chance to look at, to leaf through. It arrived at the venue directly, so it was a very special 100 years delivery. And I wanted to ask Heinz to come up and say a few words. He was, and still is, working and doing a lot of work in the archives. He is a wealth of knowledge, so also if you have questions, share stories, I would really encourage you to seek him out. So, Heinz.
Thank you. So I've been asked by Chantal to say a few words about the book and about the history of SCI. So I will start with the book.
The article about the women's movement.
Yeah, it makes me very happy. It made me very happy yesterday to see the book, actually as a book and not just as files and as a huge thing in the heads of all those who contributed to the book. We've been working on it for more or less, well, intensively working on it since last autumn 2018. The first discussions about how to make the book, about the concept, started 2 years ago, in changing settings of people. I cannot credit everyone who contributed right here. Everyone is credited in the book itself. We had an editorial team consisting of Philip Rodriguez, who was in charge, had been in charge of the International Archives for around 15 years before I took over this task. Myself and Chantal, who stepped in last year in her previous capacity as a communication officer in the IS, and a big number of authors. Some of them participated in a seminar we held in October 2018 in the International Archives in La Chaux-de-Fonds in Switzerland. And the output, without the output of that seminar, definitely the book as such would not have been possible to make. Then we had invited a number of other authors to share their memories of SCI or what they are, stories or histories they were able to tell. Some of them are here. I don't want to mention everyone who is here and who is not here. Proofreaders, native English speakers. Because most of the authors, most of the contributions were written by people who are not native English speakers, so there was a bunch of work also for the proofreaders. Jackie was one of them, and a few others who contributed. And then I want to highlight one person. Without her, the book would not exist right now. Maybe half a year, it would have taken half a year longer to have it completed. That is Marie-Lou. She only wrote one article, and that article came late, but then but then she volunteered in September. At some point she volunteered to do the layout, and then I learned what an enormous effort it takes to make a nice layout of a book that not only consists of texts but also of pictures and other illustrations. And Marie-Lou did an enormously great job during September and October to get this finished, and then we could give it to the printer, and now the book is here. And so we printed 200 copies, and I'm afraid probably we will need to print more, because we hope that the book will be liked by everyone who is here. And I should also probably mention one person who is not credited in the book itself, and who is probably not aware that she should be credited. That's Loretta Scherler from SCI Switzerland. She had dropped the idea to make a kind of an anniversary brochure. I think that's how she called it. To me, probably she had in mind 50 pages or 70 pages about the history of SCI, and that would be a nice thing for the anniversary in 2020. And I think without this input or this idea I got from a so-called millennial who expressed herself in favor of something printed, how old-fashioned. I thought, okay, if this person wants something printed, then of course it must be a good thing. We go for it. And probably she had something different in mind, but now that's what the indirect outcome of her input. The history of SCI. It is not a comprehensive history of SCI. This has not been written yet, and maybe for the 150 years someone will write 3 or 4 volumes, the history of SCI. It's still my dream to see such a book. But it's recollections and highlights from the 100 years of existence of SCI. From the perspective of very different people. The authors come from Europe, Asia, male, female, very different generations also, and very different experience with SCI. There is also one author who is a historian who was never active in SCI, but who studied certain aspects of the history of SCI. SCI started, we all know that it was in 1920, the first deeds in a devastated village in France, near Verdun. But actually, the words about the deeds, that's the title of the book as well, the words about the deeds, probably, it's not 100% sure, were first exchanged in 1919 in autumn, not that far from here, a few kilometers to the west, the town of Bilthoven in the Netherlands. where after the First World War, a number of, mainly male, I have to admit, that was the time of male dominance still, Christian pacifists from different countries, different European countries, who had been fighting just a very terrible war in the years before, came together discussing what can we do, also that something like this never happens again. We all know that it happened again, but still, this was the starting point where one of the participants, the Swiss engineer Pierre Ceresol, and other people started to discuss the idea to make a practical international voluntary service for peace as an alternative to the national destructive military service. So 1 year later, this first attempt, because it was not completely successful, that project in Verdun, but the first attempt was started in the early winter. They were building new houses in a devastated village in eastern France. Till the Second World War, the history, the building up of the movement went quite slowly, and it is still, as a historian, it is still quite easy to overview. Work camps took place in after natural disasters in Switzerland, in France, in Britain. During the Great Depression, SCI started to work with people who were affected by unemployment to build up in Wales. They constructed swimming halls for the local people. Humanitarian aid started during the civil war in Spain in the late 1930s. And after the Second World War, shortly after the Second World War, SCI started as we know it. Different national branches, first exclusively in Western Europe, reconstruction projects after the Second World War, work camps in remote mountain villages in Switzerland. Switzerland was not affected by the war, but still there was a lot of things to do there. And quite quickly, SCI spread beyond Europe. After the partition of India in the late 1940s, which was also from a humanitarian point of view a very terrible thing. SCI started both in India and in Pakistan to work with refugees from the other side, simultaneously to build up homes for the refugees. In the middle of the 1950s, SCI dared to start cooperation beyond the so-called Iron Curtain in Poland, in then communist Eastern Europe. SCI did work in Algeria before, then during the independence war of Algeria against the French occupation, SCI worked with refugees in the neighboring countries, and then returned to Algeria after independence in the early 1960s. This is also documented in the book. Around 1968, Western society was in turmoil, big changes, generational conflicts. This was also reflected in the way how SCI worked. Topics like the women's liberation movement, gender equality. SCI became more political, deeds and words, instead of words, deeds, not words. After the end of the Cold War in the 1990s, SCI got the opportunity to expand geographically to Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union even. SCI made several attempts to expand in Africa. What is left there is still a stable network of partnership with organizations in Africa. In Latin America, SCI developed partnership a bit later in the 1980s. In Africa, it started in the 1960s. And yeah, there we are. A movement always in movement, in transition, sometimes in crisis. With as far as I lived the history of SCI in the past bit more than 20 years when I was active, always trying to reflect about themselves, redefining. And what I heard from the workshop last night, the What If workshop, this process is going on independently of that we celebrate our 100 years. I think it's necessary to renew ourselves constantly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heinz. And thank you again for all the work that you did on the book. And seriously, a very, very big congratulations. It's really, really lovely to look through. Now, SCI has 100 years of history, which is a very long time, especially for the type of organizations that we work in. And throughout the years, other organizations who also started to do international volunteering service started to pop up in different countries, in different regions. Some worked differently than we did, some created their own networks, some started to explore different ways of working. And as a way to sort of work together, CCIVS, so the Coordinating Committee of International Volunteering Service, back then a different name, a few different names, different identities gone through, popped up to help make sure we work together and make sure that the effect that we had and the impact stays consistent. So we thought it would be good and a way also to share and to kind of collectively do this celebration of the International Volunteering Service 100 years by asking Ingrid Dankerts to say a short statement from also the celebration of 100 years of international volunteering service. So, Ingrid.
I'm gonna install myself here because so yeah, I'm Ingrid, and for the last 5 years I've been in the board of CCIVS. For the last 3 years as the president of CCIVS, representing SCI in the board of CCIVS. And in CCIVS I met a lot of other organizations, as Chantal mentioned, because there are other organizations out there. And my surprise was very big when I noticed that many organizations out there were very eager to celebrate 100th anniversary of what they call 100 years of IVS, while I always thought, you know, it's SCI's birthday. And then you come in all these different fora and people are like, oh, 100 years of IVS. So I saw it a bit as my role also to be the link between this international movement and SCI and being member of the 2020 team, trying to, you know, like feel what was happening out there and to connect it what we were doing here in SCI. And yeah, when I looked in my notes, I saw that, for instance, in one of the flip charts of CCIBS in 2018, people wrote, "Big year 2020." You know, like, so it's simple things that show that it's not only here, but people around us are also seeing this as a milestone, a year not to forget. So many organizations, why also I think this is so, let's say, alive in different networks, things that Heinz mentioned also come up here. A lot of organizations that now exist, their first experience with work camps was through SCI. So they feel part of SCI, even though they are not an SCI branch. Many organizations in Africa, in other parts of the world, in Eastern Europe, the first time that one person from that country took part in a work camp was because of SCI. So they feel part of this history. It's not only our history, but it's the common history. And another fact is that also a lot of organizations, historically and philosophically, are very closely connected to SCI. They were started after the Second World War or also after a conflict, and they feel very close to our philosophy. So it's not something that we only own, but they have a very similar kind of history and philosophy. So I think that as CCIBS we felt this kind of desire, no, that from organizations to be part of this celebration, and we saw it also a bit as our role to somehow make sure that all these efforts that are happening out there are also find a way, you know, to be part of this celebration. And because we have this kind of belonging, feeling of belonging, and the same roots. And I have to say that in SCI, we a lot of the time, you know, we feel we are unique. No, this is something that we often say. Yeah, you know, they also organize work camps, but yeah, our work camps, they are different. We are a kind of unique organization. But as I told you before, I think we sometimes have more similarities than differences. And I think this year is also some moment, no, to reflect on this and to also see where we can connect with these other networks and where we can see the similarities, the things that we can celebrate together. Look at that. So, as I said, I thought it was a bit my role to connect, but I quickly found out that it's a mission impossible to connect everybody who is out there and wants to celebrate together with us. Because we are talking about many organizations, many people who all have ideas and all have initiatives, so it's somehow a mission impossible. And I think that it's up to SCI, no, to create the framework, to make sure that all these little initiatives somehow get a place, or they are referred to the origin, which Heinz explained so nicely before, no? This first work camp in Esna. So I think it's a call to all of us here, no, to look around us, see which other organizations are out there in our national level, in the regional level, in the international level, to see where we can put SCI in the center of the picture and make everybody aware of, you know, it started here and all this has evolved, no, from this first work camp. So it's something we cannot do alone, not as SCI International, not as 2020 team. It's something that each of us has to do in his own country, in his own networks, in all the places where we are active. And I think I've already seen some initiatives, like in SCI in Germany. I saw they had a website from different IBS organizations, bringing together the different organizations and talking about 100 years of IBS. So it's an opportunity, 2020 is an opportunity for us to put ourselves in the picture and to strengthen the relations with other organizations out there. Yeah, so I just had some other ideas for a kind of presentation, but the internet didn't allow me to do a lot of online research, so I just had to limit myself to a few print screens. And I just wanted to remind you that SCI is a founding member of CCIBS. So when CCIBS was set up after the Second World War, I think CCIVS was set up. Sometimes I mix all these. CCIVS was set up, and SCI was a founding member and had a leading role in shaping this global network, or the Coordinating Committee for International Voluntary Service. Because there was a need to unite all the initiatives to rebuild all these destroyed societies after the Second World War. So at the start, and when you go to the CCIVS webpage, you will see how intertangled the history of CCIVS is with the history of SCI. I think Heinz explained SCI history, but when you go here, you will see so many similarities, and you will see that it was all, the same group of people who were, or some key people that were involved in many different in the same places. And SCI became, I think, a driving force. When CCIVS saw it as its task to promote IVS all over the world, like looking for contacts in Africa, exploring other continents. SCI was one of the driving forces in establishing these contacts and in supporting organizations. And then it came to my mind that last year when we had ICM in India, and I had some time to travel around in India, I interviewed Devendra Chopra, who had been the Asian secretary at some stage. And when I was interviewing him, he said, he said, because then I got this scholarship from CCIVS to go to the Middle East. I was like, I always thought that he was SCI, and then he said, I got this scholarship from CCIVS. So it showed how people between the two organizations, were moving. And in fact, after his stay in the Middle East, I think SCI also started working in that region, because when I was doing research for the MIDI seminar not so long ago, I saw that there was even like an SCI office in Israel at some stage. So this, you see how it's all, interlinked, and how people go with CCIVS to do a kind of thing, and then they come back, and then SCI does this. So it's all so much connected. The same with Eastern Europe. I think Heinz knows more about it than me, but also there, I think there was a lot of cooperation between CCIVS and SCI with the whole expansion towards that region. And we also have a lot of people who have been very important as well in SCI as in CCIVS. I don't know them all, but I know Gianni Orsini, I know Nigel Watt, who were active in the two organizations. So I think that when we celebrate our achievements in SCI, we also have to look at the bigger picture, and to look at everything what happened out there, and that evolved from what SCI has started at some stage in history. So I think that this is just when you talked about expansion to Ghana, like this, all these things were somehow linked with. Let's see. Okay. So the bigger picture is what I mentioned. Like when we talk about CCIVS and we see all the networks, it goes about so many volunteers, so many projects are involved, so many networks. So I think this kind of looking beyond SCI is very important when we talk about celebration, because this is how we can also show much wider, what we are doing and what we have meant in history. But how to move forward? I don't. This was another picture just to show this wider outreach. Okay, so how to unify, or somehow try to combine a bit what we are doing in SCI with what is happening in the other networks, or how to involve them, because I think that's the two things we have to on one hand create a clear calendar or a kind of program from SCI. I think that we know that we can do this and this and this, and on the other hand we have to think about places where we can invite other networks to join us, or to give them a space to also show what they have been doing and how they want to celebrate. So one of the things that I really thought that is a very good tool is this book. I immediately want to take one, because I want to show it everywhere. I think we have to use this thing as a thing. It's not a thing. This book is to show everywhere, no? What SCI has done over these 100 years. At the same time, I think we also have to create some more precise, compact material, like a poster or some game, to explain in a short way SCI history, also for organizations that are not directly SCI, no? And I was talking to Kat from CVS Bulgaria, and she already had some ideas, and so I think it could be really nice to work on something like this. Then one of the other ideas that is in the air, and that I think it would also be nice to check with you how you feel about it, is that the 17th of August, if I'm not mistaken, Heinz, you know, my research is the birthday of Pierre Cerzol. And I thought it could be a nice day, you know, it's in the middle of the WordCamp season, to do some kind of common action and to invite all organizations that do WordCamps to do something during that day, and to have a kind of digital campaign, to maybe also, you know, have it online, and where we can have like messages from all over the world, where people show the 100th anniversary of SCI. This 17th of August, there was also a proposal from the communication person in CSAVS to set up a kind of alongside something like this, another kind of like an action on the street, and it could also be linked to the 17th of August, where people really, you know, take a square, put up a stand, and, you know, do something all over the world at the same day, and then build something around it. So this is also a possibility where we could see if it is possible. And then we were also looking in SCI where we can really invite, no, like the other networks, and it was mentioned EPM, ICM. I think it still has to be clarified, but one of the possible ideas was to have one celebration day in ICM, like not in ICM but before ICM, where we could also invite other networks to take part in the celebration as such, not in our structural or meeting. And then in CCIVS we are working on the history page, and the idea would also be to make a clear link with SCI, link it with the SCI page, and make sure that this kind of special website that we have in SCI also becomes visible through the CCIVS website. Then we can also look in the regions a bit, no? Like I think there was the idea to do an Asia Pacific event, and to also make it a 100th year celebration together with other networks. There was, I think in Europe also the this European Youth event could also be something where we could see how we can include others and work together. But I think it's very important to look at what do we want to do internally, how do we want to celebrate internally, what are moments for us to meet, to, you know, remember things, to this, and what do we want to do externally, because until now we focused a lot on internal, but I think we need to do these two things, no? We have to look at the internal and external, local level, regional level, and international level. I think I talked already too long, because after 3 days of meeting, but yeah, I'm still here till 8 o'clock, so if you have more proposals, you can come to me or somebody else from the 2020 team. And yeah, I just think it's now or never. It's an historical moment. We have to make the most out of it. We have to take the lead. SCI is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and we have to connect with the others, but we should, you know, we should show that we are celebrating, and we are happy if people want to join us, but it's our celebration. So, thank you for listening, and I hope you're all inspired to do something next year. Okay.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. That's absolutely fine. Please. The others are working very, very hard. So they get it. If you see one, hug, high five. They are really trying their absolute best. So as Ingrid mentioned, there's a lot of different projects happening, and both in SCI, outside of SCI, there's always the question of what are we doing, and what's planned, what's not, where can we connect, where we cannot. So we thought it would be good to have a small presentation on the different activities you might expect from the office for next year, different activities that we're trying to coordinate within the movement. There is a small but dedicated team working in the office a lot on the 2020 campaign. Of course, the whole office and of course the whole movement is busy with it, but they're really trying to make it as easy as possible to get involved. So I wanted to ask Claudia, our communication coordinator, and Ginty, yes, our long-term volunteer for the 100-year anniversary, to give just a small presentation on what you might expect, where you can connect, and also what kind of ideas you might hear about.
So I also want to thank Heinz and Ingrid, who spoke before me, because they already mentioned many of the things that are in my presentation, and with a lot of enthusiasm. I will try to be brief and give more like information. So, well, maybe you know that 2020 is the 100 years of SCI, maybe. And also you know that there is a team dedicated to that, and their aim, as declared in a past ICM resolution, is to have a good celebration of the 100th anniversary of SCI, which would put into light SCI history, vision, mission, and projects, and redrive the movement in the new times where peace is a more difficult challenge. So to look back, reflect, but also and especially go forward. So, there are existing activities that are ongoing and are already present. You can already take part of them, and they will run through 2020. So, we have a website ready for all the activities and the celebrations about the 100 years. We have 100 Actions for Peace, which is a campaign that I will talk about in a second. The book that you have seen. And also we have a special logo about the 100 years. So the website is already live. You can see the history of SCI in a more interactive way and more in depth than in the international website, for example. You can see the actions that are already happening. And you can also see how to create an action to join the celebration. And how to order the book if you want it. So the campaign, 100 Actions for Peace. Genti is especially working on that, also on the website and also on the book if you want to order it. The goal of the campaign is to engage everyone in the movement, but not only in the movement, it's also open to other organizations, peace organizations, to act for peace, to go back to the roots and remember that our main actions are to create peace in the world. So, and we use the 2020 to create this momentum to, we are already working for peace, we will continue to do it, but this year is, gives momentum to do more and more as a network together and to have visibility about all the wonderful work that we do always. To celebrate, because we are happy about having 100 years of life, but celebrate in the way that SCI does it, so with actions, not only words, and to create visibility. And the actions themselves, they have aims, so they have to engage the public. They cannot be just a little reunion or something internal. They have to have an input in the world, outside world, and so they have to engage the public and encourage volunteering for peace, create impact, and also they can be a moment to reflect on our goals and visions. For example, the gathering of veterans that happened, it's a moment to celebrate and to reflect. There are some guidelines on how to do it, so it has to focus on peace, if it was not clear enough. And they can run until September 2020, so we have still some time, but we have to work a lot. And they can last from 1 hour to 2 weeks. Also more, this is like the general idea. And then to start the process, you can share the ideas with us, with Genti especially, and then we can support you and we have a conversation about how to proceed. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah. Hello. So I see some people on the phone, they're checking the website. Are they? So when you want to make an action for peace, you're gonna reach me first probably, and I'm gonna be there to support with anything you need, with guidelines. So please contact me first before I contact you. I'm gonna contact you. I want this campaign to succeed, so I believe you want to succeed. You want to promote peace as well. Don't wait for me to contact you. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so for now there are 19 actions on the website. Also thanks to Genti contacting a lot of people. 11 countries involved. Let's see if this works. Yay. So these are the places where they happened already. There are big chunks of the world where we are not. It would be lovely to be there as well, so we can do it. Yes, and so 19, we want to get to at least 100. So we really need your efforts, and just imagine at the end of 2020, we can have this big website with all like 100 actions from all the movement from all around the world. It's going to be wonderful to see, and also to see the impact that we have, because we record everything on the website. So yeah, examples, we had an exhibition, workshops on gender, was it last night or 2 nights ago? I don't remember anymore. We had a workshop on gender with Anne, and that was one of the actions. Training on nonviolence, peace run, human libraries, peace caravan, meetings. So you can really be creative. If you have more questions, we will be available at the party, especially that guy. So find him.
First few hours only.
Then the drinks will have an effect. Yeah. Well, the publication, we already talked about it, but yeah, so every branch will have a free copy. So later, well, I will talk about it later, how to get it. And then you can order more and more and more. And if you get it here, there will be no shipping costs. So it's, it's an opportunity. How it all started? Well, this is the opening of the celebrations, but there was already a lot done. For example, one milestone was the veteran meeting in May 2019 in Belgium. Was the first action number 1 of the Actions for Peace, and it gathered 130 people. And future activities, I only mentioned a few, not all of them, and it's all it's always changing and adding up, so it's evolving all the time. So the second veteran gathering will be in January, February in Sri Lanka, organized by SES Sri Lanka. There is a training in Switzerland called Peace in Practice in May. and it will be one of the 100 actions for peace. There will be a peace caravan organized by SCI France, action number 16, 10 days of itinerary work camp. So I didn't mention it, but work camps that are related to peace, they can also be actions for peace. Then many branches are celebrating their anniversaries, so this is also part of the celebration for all the movements. Genti and Heinz, they are working on a virtual museum to display manufacts like objects related to SCI history, and you will have some samples downstairs later. And as Ingrid was saying, joint celebrations with other networks. These are some pictures from some actions. Some in Europe, some in Asia, this was in France. Yeah. About the party, a few words. So the publication at 8:30, I will be at the counter here, there, to give you your free copy for your branch or for the contributors, if anyone is here. Yeah, so approach me around that time. I won't be there all night because I want to go to the party as well, so please come to that at that time. And then if some of you personally want to buy more, they will be downstairs. And yeah. When you go to the party, feel free to take the pictures that maybe you have brought with you. Yeah, your memories, objects if you have them. And also think about your wishes for the future of SCI, the next 100 years. How will SCI look like? We already talked about the 2030 in the ideas of the IEC candidates, and some of them think, well, SCI will not exist anymore because there will be peace in the world. Well, maybe, okay. But if you think that SCI will still exist, how will it be? And then there are other materials, for example, the Gender Realities Toolkit and other materials. Feel free to take them responsibly in the sense that if you already have it and there are not enough copies for everyone, maybe wait a little bit. Maybe tomorrow you can take it. That's it.
Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can find them downstairs. And I did hear some whispers, so I guess the secret is out. Yes, there is a downstairs. Yes, you will be allowed to see it later. And I'll explain a bit more at the end, but hopefully you'll like what the volunteer team and what the IF set up. So normally, when we have ICM, there's normally a bit of a secret reveal for what the next location is of the meeting. Now, this year it's a little different. This year everyone knows, and so there is no secret reveal, but there are a few ideas and a few things that we wanted to share with you. And so we asked SCI France to make a bit of a presentation and to give you a bit of a taste of what hopefully the venue of the 100-year celebration will be and what will happen. So can I ask SCI France to come up?
So thank you. So yes, let's introduce the next ICM 2020 in Poen. So it's just like some information, something could be changed, something not. Yes, so hosted by ICI France, and when, as usually, is the first week of December, so it will be probably the same from 30th November till 6th December, so it's a whole week.
where we can organize and manage APM, ICM also, and probably like a peace seminar with a veteran meeting. It's also action that 2020 would like organize. It's wish from also Jenny explained me already. It's not only to see behind about history, it's also to see the global vision about SCI and also our future. We are a bit in contact with the city of N on Argonne. You can try. The mayor is really enthusiastic to host activity about SCI. She write us, I would like host your delegate. So now I have to explain how many delegates we are. And something interesting is that Saturday will be 5 December, so it's also the volunteer day, so it's easy to invite other people, other organizations, as we said. And about post-ICR work camp, we are discuss about it because we would like also to find, if possible, an activity after to invite people to stay a bit, to have a reflection, to take time to stay a bit near Verdun. So yes, well, we know. So we are looking for. You can go just after. Yeah, we find the 2 locations. But it's not so far from Verdun, but it's quite not so close. Approximately, yes, 1 hour and a half by car. So we will research again, but probably one of these. And we are looking for also accommodation can host approximately 100 people. So that's why also we can forget a lot of bed. And what will be the voting tool? Most definitely not one of these. Thank you. Just to introduce also, in SCI France we have volunteer mostly about 2020 is Emery, and she worked a lot about our action for peace. So I may make applause for Emery, please. Merci.
Thank you very much. So now you have a bit of an idea of where we will go next year. Maybe again with a bit of a car shuttle situation, maybe a field trip, we'll see. But I personally voted for the bottle of wine. I don't know how that will work, but I think it's long lasting, so I think it's fine. So as always in SCI, when we think about the past, we think about the future. And as previously mentioned, there has been some discussions on where do we want to go, how do we want to work for the next 100 years, what do we want to do. And so the IEC wanted to share with you their quick few sentences on their wish for SCI for the future and what they hope for. So I'd like the IEC to come up and join me here while we share what we would like. Starts here.
I wish for SCI that SCI gets widely recognized in the world for the great work and great expertise that we have and we have been carrying for 100 years. I hope for SCI that when somebody asks in the world, a friend, do you know some peace organization? Then the friend answers, oh, stupid question, of course, it's Service Civil International. I wish that other global prominent organizations turn to us for cooperation or advice. I wish that if an employee of a consulate gets an application from a volunteer to get a visa, and he finds an invitation letter from Service Civil International branch, he's like, bah, it's obvious, of course, visa granted. And I also wish that if in country parliaments there is a debate going on about some conflicting issue, some parliament members bring up some publications and statements from Service Civil International saying, look, this is what these guys propose, and this is what has been working in so many places. Instead of waging wars, instead of shouting at each other, let's discuss and let's follow non-violent principles. And everybody in these parliaments is like, yes, let's try. This is my wish for SCI.
Thank you, Goshka. Well, as I get older, I become more and more traditional. So my wish for SCI is that while we keep changing and adapting to new circumstances, SCI will also always stay true to its history, values, and will never become another commercial volunteer-touristic organization.
My wish, as we all come from many corners of the world, in the next 100 years, then many people, many volunteers, generation by generation, come from each and every corner of the world into our SCI family and grow together and sharing our values and go to the world back and as SCI peace ambassadors. This is my
So my wish was going to be quite similar to Lisa, that we continue doing the wonderful work we have been doing. We once conducted a small exercise of strategic planning in our little SCI branch, and we did this sort of meditation exercise and envisaged SCI into the future. And one of the interesting things that came out of it that I'll share with you was that we would be very financially secure. We would have a multi-storey building in the middle of Sydney with neon sign across the top saying International Volunteers for Peace. So, you know, maybe that's somewhere to do that. And my other small wish for SCI in the future is that everyone takes a visit to the SCI archives, because I found it so inspiring to go there. It's really just the most wonderful record of a wonderful organisation.
My wish is for SCI to grow, for us to have more and stronger branches and members of SCI.
As treasurer, I wish SCI stays for the next 100 years stays healthy financially, evolves and grows strongly. So it affects the lives of more people.
Yeah, and so my wish is an old traditional wish that one very good friend will say to another in Scotland, and it's Lang may your lum reek, and it means, not literally, but it means may you have the energy and the fire to keep going.
And finally, my wish for SCI is that we keep inspiring people and that we keep meeting each other. I haven't been in SCI very long, but I've met some of the most amazing people, made some of the best friends, had some of the best experiences, and I think that that is really what makes this a movement, and that's what really makes sure that we keep trying, that we keep investing all that energy in. And so I wanted to say thank you to all the volunteers and all the staff who really put in so much hours and dedication, time and energy, even when they don't have it. And hopefully we can go on to another 100 years. So that is my wish. And with that, I can officially say that this grand opening ceremony is closed. We can now go on to celebrate 100 years. And as always with IC, I have a few technical points.